Folks, the very last thing that Kawasaki Kyle needed right now was yet another ZX6R recall. He's late on his alimony payments, his kratom addiction is acting up, his mental instability is at an all-time high, and now, Logan, he can't even ride the bike anymore.
It's a real shame. Yes, something tells me there's going to be an influx of like 22-year-old OnlyFans models now when all these Kawasaki squids are trying to get out from under their ZX6R loans.
Oh, it's just financially challenged Kawasaki people at the moment. That is really hard to see. And they're going to have a lime green paperweight in their garage once again.
Once again, yeah. Time is a flat circle. Everything we've done, we'll do again and again forever. By that, I mean there's been a second stop sale do not ride notice for Kawasaki ZX6R models from 2024 now through the 2026 model year. So they've pumped it up from just the 24 and 25s to now include 2026.
Sir, a second recall has hit the Kawasaki dealerships. DNR at this point might as well mean do not resuscitate, right? This is getting ridiculous. So let's level set here. Let's come back to the fold. We haven't talked about this story in a while, so there's a second recall. So that means that the people went and tried to get their motorcycles fixed, and they're still blowing up, right?
Sure, yep.
Yeah, so run us through this.
The initial recall was for crankshaft bushing number 5, the infamous number 5. Over-torqued was what was speculated, which would cause, engine seizure. Essentially worst case scenario for any motorcycle, let alone a 600 going 186 miles an hour down the freeway, So 17,000 motorcycles were originally recalled. Kawasaki has said around 11,000, I think, have already been fixed. But I guess the fix didn't take because some of these ones that either had gotten their engines, the bottom ends inspected and or parts replaced, retorqued, checked out, were sent home on their way. And lo and behold, another engine seizure.
Oh, that's got to be just so brutal if you own one of these bikes. Like you go, you're already worried about it. You get the do not ride. You go and drop it off. You get it ostensibly all fixed up. And then you go and keep riding it. Then it still blows up. So to me, it says that Kawasaki doesn't know what's wrong with these bikes.
Yeah, so that brings us to the second, which is not necessarily a recall at this moment, because in order for it to be a recall, they have to know what's wrong with it. So it's just a stop sale and do not ride while they sort of investigate to figure out the exact problem and a potential remedy. But as it stands now on December 8th or 9th, whatever day it is, Kawasaki hasn't announced what the actual problem is beyond engine seizure.
Yeah, and I think the trust in Kawasaki was sort of at an all-time low, and now I think it just broke through that floor. We may be entering a new world where Japanese bikes are unreliable, perhaps where Japanese products once really stood on their pedestal as the pinnacles of supply chain and engineering and manufacturing. You think of the Toyota reliability, which is now a bit of a meme as well. We've seen there's Toyota engines that are blown up in Tundras and stuff. Why do you think this is happening? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, Japanese motorcycles are sold by the boatload, right? More so than any other manufacturing country besides maybe India for certain models. So I think when there are inevitable issues, right, things do go awry. You get either poorly manufactured parts from a part supplier or an issue with machining or casting or something. And when those issues arise, they're widespread, right? Because so many people are buying these motorcycles. Because even when you think about it, 17,000 ZX6Rs is a lot. Like for
in the
a
span
special
of 3 years, right? I mean, that's a ton.
Everyone's saying inline 4 super sports are dying. Kawasaki says otherwise until now. This recall, maybe this will be the final death knell for the 600 class 4-cylinder.
I didn't want to see him go out this way. I really didn't. And yeah, like the weird thing is like Kawasaki's been printing out inline 4s in this configuration for decades. I mean, even the 636 has been made, I want to say largely unchanged for quite some time. That engine architecture is very well defined. And so I have seen this online where people say this motor needs a ground-up redesign. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that the engine needs a ground-up redesign. I think there's just some sort of fatal flaw in the way it was put together because they didn't used to have these issues, right? Something happened in the 23 plus model years. Something changed. Like you said, a machine maybe got calibrated incorrectly. There's some robot out there just over torquing everything and they're all coming out the factory all messed up because the prior gens were bulletproof. They've always been pretty bulletproof. I mean, you were joking about someone like Brian 636 just banging his bike off the limiter and the thing just runs. So something got messed up here.
Yeah, maybe it's like, some old timer on the shop floors, he's been running the same machine for 20 plus years, you know, and maybe he's losing his touch a little bit.
Maybe he's lost his touch. Yeah. So we're going to keep following the story. And the one thing I wanted to point out here, too, was that Kawi originally, this was kind of under the radar, but they tried to say that after scanning the ECU data, it was like a U.S.-specific thing, that it was due to aftermarket changes. Now, Logan, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a tune that you flash onto your bike and then all of a sudden there's oil starvation issues.
Yeah,
there's,
exactly.
metal on metal parts. All it's really doing is you're changing the AFR and the ignition timing and the, other little tiny things to give you a little bit more performance. It's neutered from the factory, right? In theory, you could put on a tune that is like, let's say, super lean, and then you just grenade the engine. That typically doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, pre-production, tuners usually, if anything, make it richer. They get some of that lean stuff out. They put more fuel into the equation, and so that we can make more power. Because it's generally safer to run more fuel, which is what tuners do. So I thought this was a bit weird that Kawasaki was like, oh, it must be aftermarket stuff. Like, I don't know.
Because it was. They were like, oh, it's such an anomaly in the ECUs they retrieved from American customers specifically, where it's like, I don't think it's saying so much about any aftermarket things. It's the psychology of the American rider, right? Like, because they're like, the detonations happened with American riders under higher loads or higher engine stress. It's like, that's just how God intended it, baby. You know what I mean?
It's a 600. It's supposed to be wrung out to 15,000 RPM, And I wanted to read... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then they did, I think, pretty quickly backpedal once they started digging into the engines and then realized it's a manufacturing issue, not any sort of tune or the way customers were using them or anything.
Yeah, and like we said, it's an issue with the putting together of the engine, not the design itself. We've covered earlier this year the KTM cheese cam issues and all that. That we saw was a fundamental flaw with the engine's design. There was not enough oil going to the top, and like they literally changed the head design and rerouted some of the oil stuff. Again, Kawasaki's been making inline fours for decades, dude. They've got this figured out, and they've withstood the abuse of mid-2000s squids, that were truly built different. You guys think you're out there riding 186 miles per hour in all 600s. These guys are out there, burner phones, DV camcorders, running these red bikes to absolute red line. You're nowhere close. It's totally fine. They've got this figured out. I did want to read, though, Kawasaki's exact wording here. It says, with the second stop sale, Kawasaki says axial force of the crankcase bolts can be excessive, even after the corrective measures from the first recall. As a result, there may be a lack of proper oil clearance between the crankshaft and the bushing. So it's like they kind of know it's like there's something up with this,
because
we don't know what.
It's always that bushing number 5. So it's like they've kind of pinpointed the weak point, but not necessarily why it's a weak point. Because obviously in highly tuned engine with tight clearances and everything, like one little thing can be slightly off and it's cooked. You know what I mean?
And I'm not a super expert on motorcycle engines, but to me, just intuitively, I can't understand how the bolts holding the crankcase would cause oil issues. But, again, I'm no expert at this stuff. So yeah, at this point, Kawasaki just said, park your bike, don't ride it. We'll get back to you. And we were talking about it. It's like, what is the strategy now? Like, do you keep pumping money into this, trying to fix these bikes, or do you just tell people, we're just going to buy them back? Sorry, we sold it to you. Like, where do we go from here? Yeah,
I mean, it feels like unprecedented territory, at least in my time as a motorcyclist, or even since I've been old enough to drive, right? Like, I've never heard of the only in recent memory, like, kind of mass recall scandal, obviously on a much larger scale than the ZX6R, is like everything with Hyundai in the last 10 years, of being like, just accepting defeat, right? And being like, we don't know what to do. So I don't really know I don't think there's a clear precedent for Kawasaki necessarily on how to go about it, right? Like, will this be the first, like Lemon's motorcycle in my riding lifetime?
Well, it's going to be, like we were saying, pre-production, like the lore of this bike now is the 23 to 26 bikes. People avoid those like the plague, they blow up. So what sucks about this is like these bikes have zero resale value now.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to buy these bikes.
Yeah. Nobody. People are pretty screwed. Like, and it's like you think statistically, you're like, okay, my bike failed one recall, and if it gets remedied again, you're like, statistically, there's no way it can be 3 times.
Of course,
but it's always going to be in the back of your mind. You know what I mean?
Like we've seen comments of people who are like, "Oh, but I've been riding my bike 700-800 miles, no issues. It should be fine." It's like, no, it could grenade at any moment, really. So if you're the type out there with your ZX6 and it hasn't seized, please don't ride it, because
Right.
it genuinely could cause a unsafe situation. I know a lot of people say, I'm an amazing rider, I'll just pull in the clutch, it's all fine. You may not have those reaction times, and you don't really expect your motorcycle to suddenly cease or stop working. So just don't ride the bike. It's not worth it. And if you have a deposit on a ZX6 right now, maybe just forego that deposit and consider it cost of doing business.
Yeah.
You know, just walk away.
I would really, really hope the dealership would be like, give you a refund on your
Right.
non-refundable deposit. They're like,
Yeah.
we literally can't sell it to you.
Yeah. Can't sell it. Bike will grenade itself. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, like that. Talk about force majeure, right? Like
Yeah.
that's, crazy.
And I think this story, obviously it stings because it's, a Japanese manufacturer. Japanese are known for their reliability and everything. But I think it's like indicative of the sort of economic climate of like young motorcyclists. Obviously super sports 600 class, that's a young man's motorcycle, right?
It is.
And a lot of young men like probably don't need to be spending 15 grand out the door on a whatever, or have the means to easily do it. And so when something like this happens and you end up either, even if the bike gets remedied and it runs fine, or you keep having issues, you still got to pay the note on it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's brutal. Like that's going to be devastating for some people, and maybe just be like like what takes them out of the sport for good after the fact. You know what I mean? Be like, I got so screwed trying to buy my first new motorcycle, and it was such a negative experience. Like I don't want to take those financial risks anymore.
Yeah, it's like the squid version of like getting into too much student loan debt.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like life ruining. Like you'll never get out of this hole, and like you don't even have the bike anymore. Yeah, it could be kind of I hadn't thought about it that way, but it could be like, life altering for these young squids.
And because they were talking about like, it'd be different if, some flagship Ducati had a recall, and then it's like, oh, well, I have 2 other V4s in my garage.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would be shedding tears if like the V4R had some sort of recall like this. People like, okay, like that's probably like your 5th Ducati in your 4-car garage. Like you're going to be fine, But yeah, like to these kids, I mean, we've seen comments, and they are kids. You can tell they're kids because you see these comments are like, I sold all of my bikes to be able to finance this one. I like, pulled all my pennies together, all the quarters out of the couch cushions, and now it's messed up and I have to pay the note on this, and it just really stinks. Really not a good look, for Kawasaki. We also saw a few comments. We saw with one of this on Reddit. This person said, as a 24 owner and longtime stand through the first recall, I would get your deposit back, my man. He was talking to someone who was like, should I, recall my deposit? And said the first non-invasive recall was already a shit show. This one's going to be worse. Kawasaki is losing goodwill fast. We're already talking about a class action lawsuit on the main ZX6R Facebook forum. And this is language that's now getting tossed around, called a class action lawsuit. Big fancy word. Do you think it could be a class action lawsuit?
I mean, I feel like a class action lawsuit is the end result of a manufacturer or large established company, like ultimately doing wrong by, like, you'd like to think, obviously the legal system is abstract and fluid in America, but you'd like to think
that's a very generous way of putting it.
Thank you. You'd like to think that ultimately the people being penalized by a class action lawsuit have done wrong in some situation, right? Yeah. And my belief is that, and the attitude big Japanese companies have towards doing business is like prideful enough that they will do whatever it takes to ultimately do right by their customers in some capacity. Yeah. And I would think it would take a lot of wrongdoing to get to the point of an actual class action lawsuit.
Yeah. Because they're searching for remedies is the thing. Like you can't, like it was different with KTM, or like they obfuscated the issue. Sure. They said nothing was wrong. They left these people out in the dark, and like, they were like, oh, did you work on your bike yourself? Well, that's why we can't, it's not going to warranty or whatever. Like they did a lot of stuff that actually warranted this. For better or for worse, Kawasaki genuinely is out there being like, we're trying to fix it. We just can't figure it out, like, and you can't get too mad at them for that, where you're like, at least they're trying. It is embarrassing to have 2 recalls back to back. You're like, I don't know what's wrong with this bike,
And maybe it's like they don't know what's wrong because they're used to not having to deal with these things, right? They're like, yeah, we've been running 4-cylinders for 80 years or whatever, like
something like that. Yeah,
they're like, well, like I don't know what to do,
Yeah. I just hope that, I don't know. It's sort of uncharted territory now with like the Japanese bikes, and like brand perception is really a big thing. And we've talked about how there's like, super nihilistic 21-year-olds buying CF motos. Yeah, right. No brand allegiance. We sit here you're a former 20-something. I'm firmly in my 30s.
I prefer a man formerly in his 20s.
But we remember a time where, the Japanese were like apex predators. It was the ones you always wanted to get, dominated the culture in the 90s and the 2000s. But someone who's young now, like, maybe they don't. Maybe this is their first interaction with Kawasaki. They're like, oh, Kawasaki just blow up,
Right.
And that is sort of unthinkable to the diehard older motorcyclists. But I'll tell you what, this has done. It's unfortunately made all the Gixxer people come out of the woodworks yet again.
Sure, right.
The Gixxer 750 people are back again, being like, my '08 Gixxer, bro, it's been running for forever. Your stupid brand new Kawasaki.
Yeah.
Should have been simple. You see you and your stupid TFT displays and your quick shifters. '08 Gixxer people, man.
Yeah, Suzuki keeps failing upwards through no means of their own, right? Like just circumstance.
Kawasaki's like, wait till you have to calibrate the machines.
Yeah,
You're still using the same ones from 1997, you assholes.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. We're going to follow this one. I think we saw an invoice where it was like $10,000 spent on one bike, right?
Just for parts, like not even including the labor. It's just because when something goes, right, like this bushing fails and the engine seizes, then you've got metal colliding with itself with other metal and things breaking and bending, pistons shooting out the block and whatever. Essentially, if something like that happens, you need to completely rebuild the engine. And so I guess it costs about $10,000 in parts to rebuild a 636 engine.
There is a Japanese salaryman out there right now working until like 11:30 p.m. every single day, just like hates his life. He's like, why is this happening? Because like imagine having to sort out, you're like, do we just ship all new engines? Do we just ship certain parts? It's like, if we're only going to ship certain parts, how are we going to make those outside of normal assembly? Right? Because like there's a line where the engine gets made and like they drop in the crank and blah, blah, blah. Imagine diverting just a few of those parts to like send for recall issues. Like that's probably a nightmare. And now you got to do it all over again.
Yeah. And like it was probably so, I mean, it's too graphic of a joke to make, I think. But, historically, certain people in Japanese culture have, done things to themselves after immense shame. So I think somebody somewhere, when they realized the 26s had the problem too, and like they'd been printing 26s this whole time, and they were probably just like looking in the mirror and like, this is it.
This is it. Yeah.
This is it for me.
Yeah. I can't imagine if there is a singular person responsible for this issue, God, they probably feel really bad. But yeah, I think once the 26s were also identified, because I thought those people probably thought they were safe. They're the 23s, 24s, 25s. Those 3 years, right? Now it's 26s as well that are affected.
So I think the 23s were safe. I think it's 24, 25,
24
26.
and up. That's right. Okay. Yeah. I remember it was 3 model years. Just remember which ones. That's not good. No. Because you would think once they issued that first recall, they would identify it and trim it up for the new ones being built. But they don't. I don't think they know what's wrong. Yeah.
And maybe like a positive outcome of this could be, because normally it's like when a vehicle is super reliable and from a really reliable brand, like you get for warranty, right? It's like 1 year unlimited miles.
Yeah.
Which I mean is fair because most of the time you don't need it. Maybe now Kawasaki's are going to be having, because that's kind of what KTM did and stuff. It's like having like 5-year manufacturer warranties and stuff. Right. Maybe you can get a Kawasaki now with like a 5-year. Maybe that'll be something in the future to restore that goodwill with their customers.
Well, the boys who are currently all getting their recalls done, I think they're all waiting for their lifetime warranty, like a little golden stamp that they get or something from the factory. It's not good. And I really do feel for these customers because, like for a lot of people, this was like a dream bike they wanted to get. Because like you said, someone younger, like maybe it's their first big bike they're getting and this is the experience. And like, let's say like they're like, no, I'm not going to buy some used crap on Facebook. I want something new and nice, fresh from the factory. And it does that twice.
Yeah. And twice is insane.
Twice, dude. Yeah, so we will be here on the cutting edge for anything that happens with the ZX6R recall issue. The situation was crazy before, but now it is beyond the pale. Got to bring in Arnold and do a total recall on these bikes. Just get them all out, bring them straight to Japan. I really think they're better off just doing a buyback at this point and just calling it a day. I
mean, that would be the probably smoothest option. And because the cost of whether rebuilding engines or replacing engines outright on 17,000 motorcycles, 11,000 of which they've already done it on, it would be probably cheaper to just buy the bikes back.
I feel bad for the techs at the dealerships. They're just like, I just crack this thing open.
I know.
Because it's such a huge job to like pull the fucking thing out and crack it open and do the whole. Like probably the same bikes coming back, same like cracked up fairings and stickers. You're like, I just did this one.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, God. Yeah, so we're going to follow this story. Hope you guys enjoyed today's update on the ZX6R situation. If you have one of these bikes, let us know in the comments down below if you've been affected by this situation. Apparently 11,000 of you out there ZX6R owners have been. And so far, we've only seen like rumblings on Facebook and Reddit and some of those other places. I think we're one of the first outlets to really talk about this again. We honestly didn't want to talk about it again, but we saw there was actually kind of a bigger issue than was initially slated for. So let us know down in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video. We appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.